Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vicki Poole. I'm a life coach, health coach, and a hypnotist at the Enlightened Peach. And this podcast is all about embracing our mosaic life. Now, some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life? Well, it's recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. And I am your host, and I have special guest with me today, and I'll introduce him in just a moment. But if you have any ahas or questions, please leave a comment or a voice message. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. So now, let's get started. So this amazing gentleman right here is Charlie Gaddis. Did I say that right? Gaddis?
That's correct.
All right, perfect. Well, I want to go ahead and share how I met him. Hold on a second, just realized I didn't turn on the light. There you go. But I met him because I have a friend, and she's been a guest on the podcast before as well. And she's a writer. She writes romance novels. And I went with her to a book signing. And so she's signing books, and there were a lot of authors there, all romance authors. And a lot of these authors have actual male models on the covers instead of a drawing or whatever. And that just happens to be Charlie right there, was one of the male models. And the thing that was so fun and cool to me was when the male models start walking in and everything, and especially when they're at the tables with the author of the book and they're signing, there were women that come running over, like they were rock stars and wanting their pictures made and all of that stuff. And so when we were all kind of sitting and just talking later in the day, and I found out that Charlie's just a regular guy. And he actually doesn't live that far from me, but we're still doing this on this, but just because of schedules. But he's a father, he's married, he's a father, he has a regular job, and he's a regular guy. And it's just so amazing to me to see people that it's almost like it's almost two lives in a way, because it just doesn't seem like they would connect. But so just go ahead, and if you would, I know you had said that you acted just a little bit and then you got a little involved. So go ahead, and if you would, kind of give people a little bit of idea how you even got started on this path.
Okay. So I'll give you a little backstory. Growing up, I played baseball, football, basketball. And then actually, when I was younger, I did the county theater plays back in elementary school. Then my schedule got too busy with sports, so played sports all through high school. After I graduated, I had a talent scout here in Atlanta come up to me and connect me with an agency and a management company out in California. So way back in 2007,
way back.
It feels like way back after thing that's happened in my life since then. I hopped on a plane, didn't know anybody but my management and agency, and moved out to LA, lived in Burbank, Toluca Lake, lived there for a year, and then decided I was homesick and wanted to come home. A couple things happened. My cousin, distant cousin, she's a romance author. And so she knew that I had modeled and acted on the side a little bit, and she asked if I would be on one of her covers. So this was a whole new world for me. And I did
you have one of the books where you can show the cover?
I'm going to show it just
okay.
So I did a custom shoot. It was so nowadays you do a shoot with all stock images basically, and the authors go in and pick the type, whether it be a firefighter, a cowboy, a pilot, a cop. But this was a custom scheduled shoot, and that's how I got in touch and met Golden, who's with Dog, for people that There's a little plug for him. And he was just getting started. I think I was like his 5th or 10th cover, and now he's got 3,000 covers. And so that started our relationship we do a shoot about every year. I have one in 3 weeks with him. But this was my very first book cover, and her pen name's Katie Ashley. So this was that one. So that's how that was baby Charlie. And then I've more because I want to give out. So we went to Knoxville. That was my first signing. And like Vicky said, that's where we met. We had a meet and greet. And it was, to me, I didn't know what to expect. And I went in just a normal dad guy. And the readers, they couldn't have been nicer. But like you said, it's almost like two worlds collide. And, you're looked at by them as this sexy cover model. And so it was a cool learning experience. It gave me more appreciation for the authors. Without them, obviously, I wouldn't be here. So her pen name, I went with Dawn Love, and she was awesome. She's great. And that was the table I was at. And this is the book cover I'm on with her, and it's called Logan's Flame. And so both of these books you can find on Amazon. But I wanted to give both of them a plug because without either one of those, we would have never had this conversation.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I had so much fun, but I love talking. And so I was at the booth talking to everybody that came up. Do you know about April's books? And, and just telling them everything I knew. And then, especially in the meet and greet, it was kind of fun to just talk to people as they were kind of walking up a little bit and just have a conversation. And so it was very different from what I expected. But it was so much fun. And these readers are serious people. I mean, there was a few people, and I'm sure you noticed it too. They had wagons behind them to carry all the books that they were buying. And I mean, it was like, I was just blown away with all of that, because it was like crazy. And, a lot of them pre-bought their books. And so it was big. So let me ask you a question here. And I know you've touched just a little bit on the fact that you got started with the cousin, right?
That's
cousin?
right. That's
right. Mm-hmm. And then you had mentioned something to me that I just kind of want to make sure I even remember correctly, because I'm notorious for I don't take a lot of notes, because I like to really ask questions and learn right along with everybody. But I think I remember you saying that no matter how many times you kind of try to get away from this, something always pops up to bring you back in. Am I remembering correctly?
That's correct. So okay. I was given a little bit of a quick scenario because I knew we would dig a little bit deeper, but so after I went to California, like I said, I was 19 years old when I was out there. And it was a culture shock, to be honest. I was born and raised in Georgia. I had probably 50 auditions within the year, which is a ton. But the problem with me was I was going out for every lead role. The problem with that was the resume didn't back up the lead role. I booked a couple small jobs. And then eventually I had a girlfriend here at the time. And, she came out to California twice. I came home twice. So us seeing each other 4 times in a year, that was kind of tough. So to be honest, I moved home and, wanted to spend more time with the family and her. And so I moved back, and then we ended up starting a family early. I had my first kid when I was almost 21. We built our first house after a year of being married. And it was funny, my next door neighbor there that I built the house on, we had an acre of land and we built a house, and we were talking one night, and he said, so, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I kind of touched on living in California. Well, lo and behold, he owned his own talent agency. So that turned into me signing with him and doing a couple commercials. I booked a Hyundai commercial here in Atlanta. And then my little boy, who's he's 15 now. He's not a little boy anymore. He was involved in sports, and I was a big baseball guy growing up, so I wanted to coach him. So the schedules kind of got tough for me as far as being able to miss work. And at that time I was going to school at night and full-time job, full-time husband, full-time dad. And so we kind of just decided that, that wasn't going to work. A couple of years later, ran into a guy that I knew back when I was in high school who owned he worked with a lot of models. His name was Richie Arpino in Buckhead. And he wanted to do a shoot. We did a shoot. He submitted it to one of the -- modeling agencies here in Atlanta, and they wanted to sign me. So same thing. It kind of just fell in my lap again. Then I did, a couple submissions there. And, like I've told people, it's not that I don't love it. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's not even about really the money. It's more about the time. Because my #1 priority always will be being the best dad I can be to my kids. And, one day they'll be out of the house and moved and grown. Now I have 3 kids, not just one. I've got a 15-year-old, an 11-year-old little girl, and a 7-year-old little boy. And I coach them, and try to be at everything I can be at, and fit this in on the side because I do like it. I do enjoy it. And the book world I found out a month ago, it's a crazy world, but it's fun. Yeah. And I've marked a schedule. I'm going back next year, and I'm going with Dawn, and we're gonna have a good time and have a good weekend. And but Vicky and I, we touched on this at the meet and greet, and then a little time after. And where we both are similar is I truly feel what's meant to happen for you is going to happen, regardless how hard you try to stop it, how hard you try to make it not happen. I also do fitness competitions too now. So working out's my thing. I set aside an hour every single day, lunchtime. That's my lunch break. Go to the gym and work out. And I'm just kind of the person I've always liked to push myself and see what I can do. And it's a mental thing for me. For people that don't know, bodybuilding shows, you have to go through a really, really rigorous prep. And it's tough at the end, but mine's more the mental aspect. Like, let's push. And when your body says no, your
push
mind
a little bit more.
Yeah. So, that's kind of my mindset. So I've got coaching, dad, husband.
You got a closet full of hats, man.
So it's just a matter of time, and everybody says, you will always make it work what you can make work. And I agree to that to an extent, but at some point
there's still only 24 hours in a day, no matter how you spend it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, because like we were going to record this at another time because of football practice. And then you messaged me and said, because it was so hot, they had canceled practice. So we were able to get on here earlier. And I know the people that are listening and watching don't have a clue about that, but it just shows that, you have certain obligations that, not really obligations, but things that you want to do for your family that you make sure they happen. And so everything sits around that. Right.
That's correct.
So,
and I can look back and if I wouldn't have had a kid so early, I think my life would have been totally different. I think I probably would have pursued it a little more. I think there was even talk before we started our family that we might move back out to LA. It would just be us together instead of us being separated. And so in your intro, where one little decision or one little choice or one little thing might change the whole perspective of your life. I do think, now who's to say, Yeah. and I wouldn't change it now, obviously, hindsight's 2020, but,
yeah,
that's kind of my mosaic, I guess, if you will.
That's right. That's right. Well, the way I look at it sometimes is, we can, if we had the ability to float above our life and see the map of it, then we would understand, why we made this pivot to this direction or we moved to this other direction. But because we don't have that ability, we just have to take it as this is where I'm headed now. This is what feels right. And then if something else comes along that feels good, then you can pivot to go with that. Like you have done a few other things, and all of those are probably, to me, are all leading to the best place.
Sure.
It's just, a roundabout way that we wouldn't have planned. And it's funny because one of the things that I have is, and this is probably going to sound silly in this context, but I don't like telling people what I want for Christmas or what I want for my birthday or anything like that, because if I tell them, then they'll get me what I want. But what if they knew something that was going to be even better, and I slashed it, and they didn't get it? So I don't like telling anybody, because they always give me the greatest gifts that I didn't even think they would get or didn't ask for, because I didn't know it would be a great gift. And I look at the things that happen in our life as the same way. And it's kind of like that old Garth Brooks song, thank God for unanswered prayers, and so sometimes we are wishing and hoping and praying for something to go this way, and it doesn't. And sometimes we feel like, well, if that hadn't happened, then this, but not necessarily, maybe. Yeah.
Because it's, like we've said, it's almost like things still fall into place and still happen the way
it's still knocking on your door all the time.
Maybe I thought it was supposed to happen 17 years ago, and it's supposed to happen 25 years. Who's to say?
Yeah, you keep blipping out just a little bit every now and then. You're not you, but your voice.
Okay. Well, okay. I don't know.
Well, we'll keep going. Well, what do your kids think about all this stuff with Daddy being on these romance novel covers and all that stuff?
So it's funny. I'm just the dad to them. My youngest, he's 7, and he's my buddy, and so we get it. I always have a rule: I don't want the author to send me a book after I get it. I like to go buy it myself to support them. So when a new book comes in the mail, it's always, it's the coolest thing in the world. And my daughter, she just kind of blushes, and my oldest he's like, oh, another book cover. But to their friends, my oldest especially, he's in high school now, and he's gotten the itch to start working out and that kind of thing. And if you ever go to my Instagram page, it's more of my fitness page, a little bit of modeling, but they all look at me as the fitness guy that lifts weights. And so to them, I'm cool. To him, it's a balance, I guess. It's he's still my dad, and I remember being. But I do think they think it's neat. Because when I came back from the signing, I had taken pictures, and they wanted to see, some of the stuff, and they thought it was cool.
Yeah. That's pretty neat. And, and it's funny because as you're saying that, I'm thinking, there are, big Hollywood stars that sometimes they will say, somebody will ask them the same kind of question, what do your kids think about this? And they say, well, I'm just dad, I'm just mom. They don't really even pay attention to any of that stuff. But I can say for me when I was a kid, if one of my parents had been what to me would have felt like they were really famous, I would have been, whoa, this is great,
I would have to.
Yeah, me too. So do you see yourself, you did do a little bit of acting and everything, right? So since Atlanta has become such a big hub for the film industry, so have you had an itch to go and do that? And
yeah, I have. And again, it's more of the time thing. And now that the older one's getting older, he'll be driving in a year. Part of your schedule frees up a little bit, and I'm definitely not marking it off the list by any means. So let's just say I'm gonna probably start submitting a little bit more again. And I got to be honest, I came back from the signing, and even though that was a book cover world, and I told my wife, I was like, I'm really going to start promoting it a little more, because I kind of kept it on the back burner, kept it hush hush a little bit. And I think I'm going to start, and she's all for it. She's like, yeah, go for it. We've always dabbled in and out of it. So why not? It only takes one thing.
Right.
So yeah, I think so. I think so.
Well, I'm excited because then I'll be able to say, well, before he was famous, he was on my podcast. Let me just show you this.
Ever famous, you'll always have me to come back to.
Yay!
I'll come back to you. That's a big.
I'll hold you to it. I'll hold you to it. Well, now I'm getting real excited.
Well, that's got to happen.
That's right. That's right. Well, it's been knocking at your door all these years, so it's time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see. I agree, and it's and we talked about this before. It's tough for me to fully, I guess, I don't want to say surrender, but I have this guard up a little bit because I don't ever want to feel selfish, because my number one priority's got to be my family and my kids. But then, with that being said, the other side of me is like, but hey, I want to do this. So it's hard for me to say, yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. And it's not because I'm one of those, like when I do fitness shows, I did a half marathon back in 15. And again, it was the mentality thing. And when I set my mind to something, it's go
all
100%.
or nothing kind of thing.
So yeah. So this is a little different. Like, I can't just go all or nothing, because let's be honest, I've got a full-time job that's got to pay the bills, and to go full on, it's a grind, and it's a lot of, you don't have a big schedule, and right now reality is I don't have that. So that's kind of where the balance has to happen.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that, but I'll share it, and this probably I'll just share anyway. When I first I was in college when I got married. And so I quit college and got married, right? And years later down the road, I was talking to one of my clients, and I told him, that I had quit college to get married. And he said, I said, what is it? And he said, well, why could you not do both?
Right.
And I said, well, at the time, it never occurred to me that I could do both, because I thought I was either in college or I was married. The two could not mix, and so, you have the gift. Do what?
I was in.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see it at the time.
Right.
But so maybe it would be good to change your phrasing a little bit, that you could do and that.
Yeah, I
agree. And because I think sometimes, I know for me, I will I'll let those little parameters keep holding me back, like the time and different things, because even if you started small, like just doing some extras or things like that really get you kind of in there, and it's like
up and that kind of thing. That's right.
Yeah. And it's like yesterday I was having coffee at a coffee shop with my daughter, and it's the cutest little coffee shop in downtown Woodstock. I wish I could remember the name of it. My daughter's going to kill me, but it actually is an art gallery and has a coffee shop in it. Yeah. So it's really cool. And there are a lot of the people that work there are performers. And so they were talking about different things, going to this audition and that audition, and, their expectations and all this stuff. And so I know it's a process of, you have to do a lot to get the thing,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about that, does that feel like something that is fun to think about, or does it feel like it's daunting to think about?
I'll be honest, I did the extra thing, and I did the cameo thing the 3 months before I moved to California, because I wanted to build the resume a little bit. extras, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they are grueling long days. I mean, we're talking 12 to 16-hour days.
Oh, wow. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
because when you make a movie, you don't realize it, and if you're even an extra, it opens your eyes. Just to get a 5-minute clip is going to take 5 to 6 hours, because they've got to get the front take, the back take, the side take. So it's a lot of hurry up and wait. So yes and no. The part of it excites me, like print work, commercials. Those are quick and easy and fun.
Mhm.
The extra stuff, probably not. It's just, and it's not that I'm too good for it. It's not anything like that by any means. It's more of, it's a time issue. But of course it excites me. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. Because at the end of the day, like, maybe one day that's what'll happen. So of course it sets a fire under me a little bit. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you're talking about that and everything, I'm thinking, so have you got something in your mind about how you want this to pan out with
I
the
don't I don't have anything in my mind really. I guess in an ideal world, and this is gonna sound crazy, I'm somewhere and somebody sees me and asks me to, it's like a Reese Witherspoon story. She went to be a extra in a movie, and the casting director was there, and she got the starring role. Obviously, that's one in a million. But
didn't that happen to Julia Roberts too, though? Am I remembering right? Yeah, yeah,
I'm not meaning it that way. I'm just
yeah.
saying kind of fell into place as far as I move next door to a talent scout. My cousin was a book cover or an author. So I guess in my ideal world, something kind of just falls in my lap and it happens, or somebody sees something and it happens. In the real world, it's you grind for several years, and till you finally get your break.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything in my, because I've seen all sides of it. So I don't have anything in my head that how I could see it going, because I've also seen the other side of it, how I would have never thought that would have been me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would have never thought that. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, then I like it and I appreciate the readers and the authors. And so I'm just kind of, let's just see what happens.
Yeah. Well, that sounds perfect. For one thing, it's like you were saying, it keeps knocking on your door. So, I mean, hell, for all we know, you could go to a coffee shop tomorrow and somebody say, "Hey, I think I've seen your pictures before. I think you would look good for this." And,
Right.
and a whole nother thing open up. And so then it would just be whether you felt like it was a good fit at the moment, right?
I guess secretly that's how I envision it going.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
because back when I was younger, and when I went to California, I had went to a convention before I moved out there, and we had to do several monologues and commercials and print work, and so there was a soap opera division, and out of like 300 guys, I won the soap opera division.
oh,
So
wow.
so I sat down with, at the time, she's gone, but Fran Bascom was her name, and she was the casting director of Days of Our Lives. So at that point, I thought, I called everybody back here. I was like, I'm
Ooh.
about to live, and and it's funny because that's what my mom watched when I was growing up, and so I already knew the storylines. But anyways, and it's funny, I'm friends with the executive producer of Days of Our Lives on Facebook and Instagram. So anyways, but so, that was honestly what I thought I was going to be doing, is soap operas. And then my wife's like, "You are not going to be on a soap opera." Uh, so, but so I kind of think that maybe I run into the right connection or the right person, and then we go from there.
Yeah.
Even a small thing, I'm not expecting to be the next Tom Cruise. Like, I'm not expecting that.
Well, I just heard a story the other day and I thought it was really interesting, about Harrison Ford
Mhm.
and him being oh God, on Star Wars. What's his character's name?
Oh, well, if you wouldn't have asked me, I would have been able to
I
tell
know.
you.
Why can I not remember that?
It's not Luke. No.
No, Luke's the other one.
Yeah.
Why? Well, it doesn't really matter. But the story that I heard, now, we hear stuff all the time, doesn't necessarily mean it's true. But that he was, when he went in to read for that, he was not thinking he was going to get it. So he had this sarcastic attitude. He was like, I don't give a shit kind of
Sure.
thing. And that was the thing that won him the actual part, was because, yeah.
And that's what's kind of neat on my side now. Whereas back when I lived in LA, every audition was the end of the world. Now you learn that quick that it's usually 100 to 1. It takes 100 auditions to get one job. But I remember I went to a final casting call. It was for Cold Case, the show Cold Case on CBS. And I kept going through every callback, and I got to the final callback, and it was like 13 pages of script I had to have memorized within 6 hours. And I remember stressing over it. And the casting producer told me, they were like, "We loved you, but we went with a guy that had a bigger resume." But my point being, now when I approach an audition, sure, I take it serious to an extent, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make me or break me. I've got a job that'll pay my bills. I've got a family that I can come home to. So it's a sense of relief, I guess you could say. So it's a little easier. It's not that I don't take the job serious, but I don't take the rejection at all. Like, it's like, oh,
yeah. Because I've always thought myself that it would be the hardest thing to be would be an actor or an actress, because you have to prove yourself again and again and again. And then until you get where you're ultra famous, and sometimes you still have to prove yourself at that point too, but not in the same way. But the amount of rejection that you endure, and I only know this from movies, and I've had some friends that were extras and different things like that. And I've got a couple of friends that their children, are actors. Right. But it is, I would just think it would be so debilitating to go through that over and over and over again.
It was at the beginning, but like I said, I think it's more, and that's usually when the jobs start coming, is like you said with Harrison Ford, is when it's, okay, I'm just going to approach this as an everyday thing. I'm going to try to create the character as I see it. And if they like it, they like it. And if they don't, that's okay too. Versus, how do they want to see me? How do I act?
How do I have to conform into their idea?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
So going forward, that's how I'm going to approach everything.
That sounds perfect.
Let you know when I book a job.
That's right. So we know you're gonna get the jobs right now because you're relaxed in it.
Right here.
Say that again.
I'm speaking it into existence right here.
That's right. That's right. Well, I am super excited, and I so appreciate you coming on here and talking. But I have one question I want to ask before we go.
Okay.
And when you, let me see how to phrase this. When you come to the place in your life where you're going to be passing away, what is it that you want to be remembered for or as? How do you want people to speak about you? What do you want them to say?
That's going to make me emotional, because I do think about this a lot. And I want to be known as a good dad. I want my kids to always know that I tried everything for them. I made sacrifices for them. And I tried to make their life as good as possible. So that's my number one. It's not about me. It's not about, I want people to say I was a, whatever. I want my kids to be able to say, man, I had a good dad.
Well, that sounds perfect. Not a lot of people can say that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if I'm doing a good job at it, but I'm trying. So
Yeah. Well, we all do what we can from where we're at, right?
that's right. That's
That's
right.
right. Yeah. And I will share the reason that question is on my mind is I just had someone who was close to me that passed away
So,
yesterday. Well, I found out about it yesterday. And the one thing that he had always said was that he wanted to make sure that he made a difference in people's lives. And
sure.
the amount of people that I've had conversations with about him since that happened, it's like, man, he had no idea of the difference he made for people. And so I kind of feel like for you, I think you're going to have such a big impact on your children that I think you'll get a little inkling of it as they get older. But
Sure.
I think you're going to be blown away at some point when they start telling you how much you've done for them. And part of what you do for them is showing them that you can be an individual and you have all these different interests. And that would help them as they get older and they get married to know that it's okay to have all of this stuff and have a full life.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't think I was going to get emotional, but when you talk about my kids, my family, it makes me
Yeah.
a little emotional. You
That's
know,
that's perfect,
I hope so. I hope so, and I think so. I do think so because Father's Day and birthdays, they write me letters, and those are things more than gifts. I love getting cards because they handwrite me, how they feel, and it's funny to see a 7-year-old write what he loves about me, and then a 15-year-old. And every Father's Day, it looks kind of like this, except a little worse. But so that's for my heart. And I'll be honest, they make my world go round. So, you know,
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah.
So thank you for sharing all that. And I will say some of my fondest gifts that I've gotten from my kids over the years are some of those handwritten cards. And I've even got some little things in frames that I have up on the wall because it's like she might have only been, 6 years old, but it's still perfect and all of those different things. So as a parent, it's always amazing and wonderful to see how the things that they remember, you
That's
know,
right.
is great.
That's
All right. So I guess we will call it a day, but
okay.
just hang out for just a second. And I want to tell everybody that is listening or watching to definitely leave a message in the comments if you want to chat with either one of us, ask any questions. I know on some of my other podcasts, there have been people that have actually sent messages to the guest. And so you're definitely, allowed to do that. And it would be great. I'm sure he would love to hear from some people. And to also, I'm going to be sharing it on YouTube and different places. So whatever it is you do, wherever you're watching this to make this go out to more people, do that. So like, share, subscribe, whatever it is. And I will see you next time. Mwah.